Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Bob Kenward of Fluvanna Sports Photography in Palmyra, Virginia. Hi, Bob. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me on.
So, Bob, you are a longtime sports photography, I want to say expert, industry figure, just a figurehead in the industry. But how did you get started in it?
Well, I've made every mistake that you can possibly make. So, I started in about 2006. I actually started doing just action photography. My son was playing travel soccer, and I thought, well, that'll be fun. So I started taking some pictures of him and sharing them with the rest of the team. A couple people encouraged me, you could sell these. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that seems reasonable. So I started out doing action photography. My business was formed in January of 2006. And I did just action for a few years, maybe 3 years or so. And during that time, few people asked me about doing team photos, and I had absolutely no interest in doing it. I'm like, that's boring. I like the action. It's fun. I like watching the game up close. Right. And I did baseball and softball and soccer and all that stuff. Finally, grudgingly, I did one small league for team photos, and it's traditional team photos, standing in the grass with the ball on your knee and the team on the bench and the whole bit. It was okay. It seemed to go well. And then I looked at the paychecks that I got from that, the money, the orders that rolled in. I'm like, wow, for the amount of time I put into that versus sitting down at baseball fields all day and sweating, that was really lucrative. Mm-hmm. So I realized that, that was probably a better angle to go. So I started out just kind of cherry picking very, very small leagues. I'm a solopreneur. It's just me. I don't even take on a league or a job where I would have to set up two cameras. I just do it. If it's a one camera job, it's my size. Mm-hmm. So I specialize now, in leagues that are about 300 kids or less that I can do in one camera setup, one setting. So that was about 2009 when I took that first league, I think. And then probably within 4 years or so, that's primarily what I was doing, was team and individual. I still always did a little bit of action up until a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of just decided I'm not going to do that anymore. There's another photographer in my area, very talented, and he loves action, and that's what he does. So now every time somebody contacts me for action, I just steer it to him, mm-hmm. and he takes care of it. So, that's how I got started. And now all I do is team and individual. I also transitioned to composite photography about 6-7 years ago, mm-hmm. and from traditional. And now that's all I do. I just do composite. So that's my story.
I just think it's funny how you just said traditional, which, I've been in the industry long enough. That used to mean film.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
And that's a very different, traditional team photo is you actually, like you said, sit them in the grass and now you composite them, which is, easier for everybody.
Yeah. I like the composite format. I'm in traditional photos, and there's a lot of photographers out there that still do it the traditional way, and the stuff looks so good. It's killer. Mm-hmm. But for me, I just like the ease of the composite. I like being able to set up inside. Mm-hmm. I don't have to worry about changing lighting conditions. I set up, I lock everything down, and I'm just going from there. Mm-hmm. Kids don't have to be there at the same time and all. For me, it's just, for my business model, it's the way to go. Mm-hmm. My area seems to like the composite photography. Mm-hmm. But that said, the folks that do traditional, there's some very, very good photographers out there, and the stuff looks so good. Mm-hmm. And it looks, I really, really like it. But for me, I just don't want to take the time and effort and sit out in the weather to do it.
Yeah, so. I mean, plus you always get the one kid who shows up late, and
of course,
there's always that, or miss the shoot, and you got to get them in anyway, and it's almost you're going to end up compositing it in any way, shape, or form.
In some cases, yes.
So It's funny how when you said you got into this to be an action, because it seems like that's a very common theme when I talk to
It is.
sports volume photography, right? But there's very few people have been figured out how to actually make money at it without, having a side gig or another, or, your main job or whatever, just
Mhm.
because, you put up a gallery and you just kind of hope they buy, the spray. Were you doing like the spray and pray thing where you take pictures of everybody
Yes.
and
Yes, I
do the
was.
gallery?
I'm like I said, I've made every mistake in the business. I've made them all, spray and pray. And then when I started to do team and individual, I, did paper order forms, and that worked fine, but it's a lot more work. And then I used to take each photo and hand crop it to the size I needed and put it in a folder. And so if Sally's mom ordered an 8x10, a 5x7, and wallets, I made 3 copies of that photo and then put in a big rose order to my lab and got back a stack of photos and sorted them and separated them and delivered them. And then I found out you could do rose events and you get them back prepackaged, and I thought that was just great. But then I still had to deliver them or mail them, or like I said, I've done everything. Now I am extremely streamlined. So it's composite. I shoot on a highlight backdrop like Elastilite or the knockoff Angler brand. So a highlight backdrop. So I'm a backdrop, 2 lights, tripod, and a bucket to sit on. And that's pretty much it. And then I do online ordering only. My composites I do online through Got Photo, and my composites are done by Next Gen Photo Solutions,
which is now part of Got Photo.
Right. So all I do is I go to the photo shoot, I take my pictures, I upload my straight out of camera JPEGs, I transfer them to Next Gen, I get back a proof, I approve it, the images automatically transfer back to my Got Photo gallery, I hit sell. So it's very streamlined now, all shipped to home, parents order. It's just great. For me, it's the way I like to do it. I like to outsource as much as possible. I'm not a photographer, by the way. I'm not a photographer at all. I've never trained in photography. I'm an engineer by trade.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you did before this.
Yeah, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, and I worked for the government. I have a 35-year career in the government. I retired at the end of 2018. So if you do the math, you can see that for several years, I was doing both jobs. And before I discovered online ordering and everything, it was like working 2 full-time jobs. It was just insane. And then I discovered you could do the online stuff, and that helped a lot, but still was very busy because I was picking up leagues here and leagues there, people constantly. And I wasn't reaching out to them. They were coming to me because they liked the quality of the product that I was providing in the area. It just got to the point where I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I reached my minimum retirement age and decided I could do this and do it full time. And I retired at the end of 2018, and then exponentially grew since then, but still just doing it myself. So I'm at the point now where, like in the spring especially, I'm saturated. I can't take on any more leagues. I don't want to take on any more leagues. I'm plenty busy. I got a ton of travel teams that I work with, and it just keeps me totally busy. And then summer is a little dead time, which is what I like. And then winter and fall are busy, but not as crazy as spring.
So I'm just curious, in Virginia, what are the big sports there? Because it seems like there's a regional aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. So baseball, softball, soccer, football, basketball in the winter. That's pretty much it. We don't have a lot of lacrosse. There's some lacrosse, but like in Maryland, lacrosse is everywhere. Right. And here there's some. I don't think we have any rec field hockey. Maybe, again, I'm in between Charlottesville and Richmond. And again, because I target smaller leagues, I don't do a lot of work in Richmond or Charlottesville because they tend to be larger leagues. And I know that, they may have, like Richmond, I would expect has a lacrosse league, but it's probably larger than something I'd want to take on. But yeah, those are primarily the sports. And that's primarily what I do. Yep.
So I'm curious about your technical background. You're an engineer, so certainly the technical aspects of photography I imagine are what kind of drew you to it, right? You're probably somewhat of a gearhead, I imagine.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And my engineering background and just the way my mind works, I'm very workflow and efficiency oriented, which is
Right.
exactly what volume photography is. It's a lot of business with a little bit of photography,
Mhm.
of the volume photography world.
Right.
And it's all about processes and workflows and efficiency and
Mhm.
making that work as quickly and smoothly as possible. If you have to touch an image after you've taken it, if you have to individually touch an image, you're wasting time and you're losing money. It's okay if you might, like I do a global edit on my images when I bring them in, but it's just one click and it applies to all the images I took that day because they're all exactly the same lighting. There's no changing. If you
Right.
have to go in and like remove glass glare on one image, you're wasting your time. You just outsource that. There's no need to go and do that. Anytime you touch an image individually, you're costing yourself time, and time is money. So for me, it's all about workflow. And that's one of the things I kind of excel at. And I've been helping a lot of people with that lately over the past couple of years with just efficiency in the workflow and efficiency in how they run their business and how to do things smoothly and maximize profit with less effort.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Photo retailers, energize your sales with ShareMe Chat, the proven texting platform. Using chat to text on your website keeps your customers connected and buying. See us at Pro and IPI to find out why dealers using ShareMe Chat close more sales without adding staff. Find out more at shareme.chat.
Because I think that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about the photography business as a whole, whether it's volume photography, whether it's, a retailer or a photo lab or something like that. They get into it because they like photography, but to stay in it, you kind of need to accentuate all the other skills, right?
Yeah, and I was going to say business skills are critical, and I'm not a business guy, but I've learned and I've talked to lots of people who are focused on the business side, and that's very, very important. There's a lot of photographers that get into this because they love what they do, but they don't know anything about the business side, and many times are operating, borderline illegally on, as far as taxes and the way they handle things and protection of data and things like that. So it's very, very important to make sure you have your ducks in a row when you start your business. I mean, a perfect example is, I started my business January of 2006. And I filed and I didn't take any money in for the first couple of months. I just kind of said, okay, my business is established January 1st. And I worked on getting it all set up, and I filed with the state of Virginia to pay sales tax. And I did that in March. I said, I'm set up my account. And they said, when did you start your business? I put January 1st. And then they proceeded to send me a penalty bill for not filing for January and February. I had taken no money in, mind you.
Right.
But because I put January 1st and hadn't filed, they penalized me. I paid like $25 in penalties because I didn't file the first 2 months when I made no money. So it's little things like that. The best thing, when you get ready to do this is to consult a CPA ideally, or at least somebody who's smart in business to tell you about the gotchas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's interesting is I had a friend of mine who had a photography, but he was like a wedding shooter, weekend guy. And he says, nothing kills your love of photography faster than being in a photography business.
That it kind of depends on how you approach it. If you're not smart about it, it can kill you. The stress and the way you operate can just drive you into the ground. You also have to have thick skin because you're going to have a lot of customers, especially in the volume world. You have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers, and there's always someone who's going to complain about something. Hopefully you don't get too many complaints, but sometimes when you do, it can be, you cannot take it personally. You just can't take it personally. You have to have a thick skin and just be professional and work through the problem with the customer and make sure they're happy, but not to the point of giving away the farm. You gotta control your business too and have your own methodology of doing these things. But yeah, it can be stressful.
So what would be an example of that type of feedback you get from a customer? Is it because the kid doesn't look right, or they don't like your pricing, or you're not offering the products they want in terms of output? Well, I'm just kind of getting an idea of a typical complaint someone might have.
I've gotten the occasional complaint about pose or that's not her real smile. I don't know what a real smile looks like, so it's a smile to me. Those little things. You can offer to do a makeup photo or something like that. I certainly refund their money. That's actually the easiest thing to do if they've ordered and they don't like it. But that's kind of harkens back to the days of prepay and where they didn't see the photos before they.
Yeah, I was going to say
now
days.
it's all post sale, so they're looking at the photo before they pay. So if I tell them if they don't like it and we can't, it's not easy for me to do a makeup or something like that, like it's an optional purchase. You don't have to purchase it. You haven't paid me any money and you don't have to purchase it. So, but other things are sometimes the user errors. I had one this morning. They ordered a big package and then they did an add-on where it gives you all individual photos, digital of all individual photos in the package. Mm-hmm. So they got their digitals. And she wrote to me, she says, "Oh, I'm missing 2 photos." And I said, "Well, what are you missing?" And well, it was 2 in my favorites that I thought I was getting. I thought I was getting all my favorite photos, not just the ones in the package. It's fine. Yeah. It's just user error. And in that case, because the order was so large in the initial order, I'm like, no problem, I got you covered. And I just sent her the 2 digitals. They cost me $0 to do that. Right. And she was very, very happy. But the order was, close to $200 to start with. So I really didn't have a problem doing that. If she'd put in a $20 order, I would not have sent her the 2 high-res digitals, for free. Yeah, so you just got to kind of decide and pick your battles where you want to, if you want to battle against someone requesting something. But, it's little things like that. Sometimes you get a special request where, especially because I do composite, they'll have 2 kids. One plays baseball in middle school and the other one plays softball in middle school. Well, can you put the 2 of them together in one photo so that I can order that? Because they're already cut out in composite. And I'm happy to do that, but I charge a design fee for that. So I charge them $25 or $30. They pay me to do that. Then I put the photo in their gallery and then they're free to order it. So you got to learn to get paid for your time and be careful about what you agree to do. Because once you agree to do something for someone or something for a league, sometimes word gets around and everybody will want the same thing. So you have to be very, very careful about that.
Yeah, one of the things that the people who do, and I'm doing air quotes here, traditional teamwork is, the buddy photo thing, right? That's a hot thing where you get like the 2 sisters on the team or the 2 brothers or best friends or whatever. And that's a great way to add on a sale, but for your workflow, can be a challenge, I imagine.
We do those all the time, actually, but the best way to do it is exactly the way the traditional photographer does it, and that is put them all both together in the frame and take a single picture, and then they're extracted and put on the background. We do not want to have to take 2 individuals.
Well, that's what I was asking.
That's a lot more work. Yeah, that's why I charge for that. But if they're there at the photo session, and we do buddy photos all the time, coach and son, coach and daughter, 2 players, that kind of thing. So,
but you're not compositing those.
No. Well, I do. They're composited in that they're extracted, but they're shot together. So
yeah.
There's putting 2 individuals together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting how, you've made it a conscious decision as a business that you're going to limit what you're going to do, right? You can't be all things to all people. You maybe do the photography, maybe do the workflow well, but you're not going to do, a 17-team soccer tournament if you can't do it all in one day by yourself. Right. Yeah. So what was your thought process on making that decision for your business? Because a lot of photographers are thinking growth. I need more. So clearly, your costs are going up. Your overhead is probably, everything's increasing now. So how are you increasing your profits and sales without doing more?
Yeah. So the background on that choice is the fact that, one, for the first several years, I was working a full-time job along with this. So I just wanted to limit myself. And my career in the government, I was a supervisor for the last 12 or so years. So I have supervised people and dealt with employees and for a long time. And one thing I didn't want to do in my second business, and now my primary business, was deal with that again. I mean, it was a great thing. I didn't really have any bad experiences, but I know how difficult it can be. So I made that choice. I'm also very, very lucky in the fact that I have a good retirement. I have a pension. I have health care at a good price that, because I was a government employee. So I'm very lucky that I can be picky in what I choose to do. A lot of other photographers do not have that luxury, and they need to take on what they can. They need to grow. I always tell photographers when I'm speaking, you have to think about your future and your lifestyle as you build your business. I tell them, don't forget about retirement. If photography is the only thing you do and you don't have any other income or other, 401ks or something, I said, you have to fund your retirement. You must fund your retirement, or you will regret it when you're ready to part. And I said, healthcare, you have to have that. So there's all kinds of things that I'm lucky that I have covered by other means. So I can afford to be picky on that. And it just, for me, it's how I want to be. It's not right for everybody. Other photographers want to grow. They want to have multi-bay stations, and that's all great. But it actually has been a benefit to me because a lot of the larger companies that do team and individual in my area, they don't look for the leagues that I do. They want the 1,500 kid league, the 2,000 kid league, because it's more efficient for them to go and set up on a Saturday and set up 3 bays or 4 bays and knock out that league. Whereas if they have a league that's small, it's just less efficient for them. So I'm able to kind of cherry pick these smaller leagues and build my portfolio with that. As far as increasing business and to cover costs and stuff, like I said, I'm not fully busy except in the spring, so I can always add on something. I do a lot of travel teams, so I press hard with the travel teams, and they're just simple little 1 teams, 2 teams. And we push them to do banners, and the parent sales are great. And so those are a great source of income that you can do even if you're not doing leagues and such.
So let's talk about the transition from paper form traditional, which is probably you thought, I'm getting into this. I need a form. I need to take checks. I need to do all these things, to a digital process, to the online process. Because your wife was with you at these shoots to start with to do that piece of it. Now you do it on your own. What was your evaluation process and looking at the different platforms? Because there are different platforms.
Absolutely. So like I said, I did the traditional paper order forms and sales table for many years. And my wife ran that sales table and she excelled at it. And then I started learning more about the online platforms because I was still, building, collecting the orders and separating them in some cases and delivering them to the leagues and stuff. And we always had problems with kids not getting photos. The coach still had them in his trunk, the whole thing like that. So I just kind of wanted to move away from that. And so as the online platform started to mature, this would have been back in I don't even know. I lose track of time, 2014 maybe or so. Yeah. The online platform is starting to come along. I looked at it. I'm like, I want to give this a try. I want to move to this kind of a model and see if I can eliminate that job from my work day. So I transitioned a small league over to that. Of course, remember too, with paper order forms, you're generally shooting 1 pose. It's one and done because the parent is paying you in advance, and you're going to take 1 pose, and that's the pose you're going to deliver to them. And if you take more than 1 pose, and then you deliver to them pose A, and they saw you take pose B, they'll come back to you and say, well, I really wanted the other pose when you fill their order. So most traditionals take the single pose if they're doing prepay and order forms. When I transitioned to online, I knew that one of the successes for online was being able to offer multiple poses, multiple looks, smile and game face, different poses. And so I took a small league and I transitioned it to online ordering using one of the providers, and did multiple poses. And while my percentage of parents ordering was lower, as it almost always is when you transition, the value of each order was higher. So the amount of revenue that I made was more than I made on paper order forms with fewer orders. I also raised my prices a little bit because I had to cover, the fee that the online provider is going to take for that. So I raised them up a little, and it was fine. But it was so much easier. And even if I had broken even and I'd made no more money, I still would never look back because it's so much easier, so much less work for me. So within the course of a season, and by a season, I mean, I think it was a fall, I went from, one league doing online, and by winter, I transitioned everything to online ordering and multiple poses. And that meant that I could fire my wife as an employee because I did not need an order table anymore. So she was both happy and heartbroken about that. But the unfortunate thing for me is that now if I take her on a photo shoot, which is very, very rare, but occasionally I'll need her to help posing or something, I have to pay a consultant fee, which is far more expensive than what I was paying her as an employee. So anyways, yeah, it made my life so much easier. And now the parents see the photos first. So they pick the photos they want. They pick from multiple poses. They place their order, it's shipped to home. It couldn't be easier from that standpoint. I thought for sure I'd have people complaining about paying shipping because I used to always deliver to the league. I literally had no complaints. I transitioned, probably 10 leagues from delivering to the league to online ordering, and I didn't have any complaints out of all those people. So it was great.
Did you get any pushback? Because I've talked to a lot of smaller firms who are kind of still doing this. There are people still doing the paper forms.
Absolutely.
Their big concern is, you know what? They aren't going to buy. A prepay is great. And you trialed it. I mean, you did the smart thing where you said, hey, I'm going to pick a league and we're just going to try it. And if it doesn't work, we go back, no problem. I'm just curious about, did you get any kind of feedback from parents going, I really like this, or the coach saying I like handing out the pictures or anything like that?
No.
No. In short, no.
No, I really didn't. I had the league liked the moving to online because they didn't have to distribute big packages of photos to the coaches. The coaches like it because they didn't have to worry about getting them to the customers, and they weren't floating around in their trunk for weeks. And the parents like it because now they know when they order, within a week they have their photos in their hand, rather than I had some leagues that I would do their photos early in their season and then deliver all the photos, a week or so later. And then they'd play for 6 more weeks, and I'd get all these calls from parents about, where are our photos? I'm like, well, I delivered them to the league 5 weeks ago. They were holding them till the end of the year party to distribute. And I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah. So why did you work that hard to get them done in a week?
Right. So the short is I had no pushback, and I've done so well with online ordering. And yeah, I think it's regional though. I think there are areas where maybe if you transition, you won't do as well. But the key thing is, if you're going to try it, you try it on some kind of a smaller league or account, and you do multiple poses and multiple looks, and you let the parents go from there. The money does not come in all at once, that's for sure. Paper order forms, you got it all the day of. You went home and you had this stack of money and everything was great. And with online, it is not that way at all. It dribbles in over a couple weeks or a month or 2 months. I do my online e-commerce through GutPhoto, and I love the platform. It is the most feature-filled platform, I think, of all the providers out there. And it has a number of capabilities that drive revenue and drive an increase in revenue for the photographer. One of the things that it offers is the ability to archive galleries. I think most of them do, but the nice thing about GutPhoto is I can say that I'm going to archive them on a certain date, and all the emails go out about archiving them on a certain date, and this is your last chance to order, or things like that. But then you can actually just not archive it, and it just stays up. You can even change the price list at that point. So what I've done is I've modified the communications that go out when my gallery is about to archive, and I say that basically it's going to archive, and to save paying an archive fee, i.e. higher prices, order now. And it drives an incredible number of sales within that last few days before the gallery archives.
And you can you reach out to people? I mean, is the email program sophisticated where it's just, hey, I'm just going to target non-buyers and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can set it up any way you want. There's a number of triggers. You could set it up to send emails to everybody who has already bought and offer them like a discount for a second sale. You could send it to people who haven't bought yet. You can send it to everybody with photos. You could send it to only the ones who haven't logged in yet. It's incredibly capable. I mean, there's just so much configurability and the ability to customize things to your own liking. That's one of the many reasons that I love the platform. If you, as a volume photographer, if you have something that you want to do, you think, I would really like to do this.
Right.
Gutphoto probably can do it. And if they can't do it within the platform, I doubt any other platform can. Right. Because I think they have more features than any other platform. And as far as, fees and costs, it's all comparable. They're all, roughly about the same. Gutphoto has, if people are interested, I can give you a breakdown of comparisons between platforms and where the break-even point is as far as annual revenue and stuff. So basically, you got to kind of lay out what it's going to cost you per year or per month, and you can figure out which platform is best from a cost standpoint. But that's not it. You don't want just cost. You need everything else that goes with the platform, capability and, customer service and all of those things. And to me, Gutphoto has all of those things covered and more. So I'm very, very happy with it. Can I circle back? I have one thing. So back when you were asking me about increasing revenue, here's another way to increase revenue when you don't want to take on necessarily more work. You feel like you've got enough work. I look also at the performance of a league and how the revenue is from that league. And if it's low, and in my area, there are some sports that are just low, like soccer, and I can find another league to replace it, like a softball or something like that, then I will just stop servicing that lower revenue league and replace it with a higher revenue league. So I had that this year, a big soccer league that I do, and it actually takes me 2 weekends to do it because it's big, and I don't generally have a lot of leagues like that. I don't have any. That's the only one. But the actual revenue is not all that great. Not bad, but not great. I replaced it this year with a flag football league and a softball league. Mm-hmm. I made far more than I would have made on the soccer league. So okay. Yeah, that was the other point.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah. It is interesting how different sports kind of have different values to them, right?
Oh yeah, the more they wear, the more they spend. The more the parents
exactly.
pay, the more the parents pay, the more they spend. Yeah. So for instance, baseball is a good sport, but travel baseball, even better because they have to pay. Right. They try out and they pay. Yeah. Football, always good. Soccer, not so much. Yeah. Swim, definitely not so much. But then again, that's my area. I talked to other photographers. I just talked to one on Facebook a couple days ago. And for her, swim, one of her best sellers. So it depends. It's regional.
Yeah, you got to know your market.
You got to know your market. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of how buying behaviors kind of changed a little bit with these, with the capability now that you can market. Because I'm been around for a while. I've seen a few things. You, as a volume photographer, never used to get to market to the parents really directly. I mean, you everything was on the form, right? But now you can actually reach back out to them and remarket things and actually like maybe suggest products. I mean, I've heard of photographers who've done actually very well with, hey, reminding people around the holidays, would you want Junior's baseball picture on a ornament for grandma? You know, stuff like that. Do you do any of that?
I don't do as much as I should. There are some photographers that excel at that. I've done it a couple of times. I do like a Black Friday sale. I do a sale in the middle of summer. I've offered the Christmas ornaments. And yeah, those things all drive an increase in sales. And because it's all online, you have this huge database of customers. And you know what sport obviously they're attached to, where their child plays, whether they've purchased or not. You can set up your target. If you have a real business marketing mind, then you can set up your communication to target the group that you want, right. And the sport that you want, and whether they've purchased yet or not. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways to do that. And those are the kinds of things that I think are great to kick around at conferences and things like that with other people who are in the same business, because everybody has a different idea, a different take, a different thing that they do, a different promotion. And I'm not really good at that. So I'm always willing to learn. And that's why, so that's one of the things too, I would offer up to, especially to any volume photographer out there, is make sure you attend conferences. Invest in your business, invest in yourself, go to a conference, and pick the right conference for what you do. If you do just volume sports, for instance, if you do just volume sports, then something like SPAC in Las Vegas in January is ideal because that's it. It's volume sports and volume schools. If you do seniors and you do a lot of seniors and you do a little bit of sports, then maybe Sync in Florida in February is better because it's much more focused on seniors than anything else. If you do just schools, your big school accounts, then I think the SPOA is one of the ones that you would go to. So, you just got to pick the right conference. I will point out that if you're doing volume photography, sports or schools or whatever, and especially if you're a Gut Photo user, but you don't have to be, the Gut Photo Summer Camp coming up June 20th to the 22nd in Chicago is going to be a great event. It's a 3-day event. The agenda, I think, is going to drop today, the day we're recording this. So by the time you hear it, the agenda will be out, I'm sure. I've seen kind of a preview of that, and it is packed. I mean, the first day, if you're a Gut Photo user, the first day is ideal because it's beginner, intermediate, and advanced topics on all things Gut Photo. So all these capabilities and ways to do things are all going to be talked about that day. And there's classes you can go to and meet with the developers and the marketing people. They'll do an account review, whole bit. It's just, it's great for streamlining your marketing and setting up your business to maximize your revenue. And then the next 2 days are all packed with everything volume photography. It doesn't matter. And those would be applicable whether you were a Gut Photo user or not. We're going to do posing and lighting and composite work and traditional work and all kinds of things like that. So I would encourage everybody to check out the agenda and think about going to that if you want to go to Chicago in June. So it's going to be a good event. Yeah.
And you will be there.
I will be there. I am one of the speakers. I have a couple of talks that I'm giving. One of the other things that are done there that I think is different from other conferences, we do knowledge exchanges, and there's a bunch of those. Those are small in a conference room with maybe 15 or 20 people, and you pick a topic. The topic is on the agenda, and you go in, and that's the topic you discuss, and it's just everybody participates. It's not a lecture or a presentation. It's a participation. So something like specials, marketing, how do you market your photos is a perfect knowledge exchange topic. What promotions do you do through the year, and how do you maximize revenue? How do you get additional sales when you've already gotten the sales from the first round? So it's things like that we talk about in those. So I highly recommend attending. I think it's a really great value, and the educational opportunities are unmatched.
And it's really not something you can get from, a Facebook group or some of the other things that are out there. That's really where I find the value in conferences is because I go to quite a few during the course of a year, is just that informal exchange. You run into somebody in the hallway and you say, hey, I've got a problem, and they've got the answer right there.
Absolutely. I think when you're doing that at a conference and you're getting advice from people, I won't say 100%, but the majority of the time, and far more than 50% of the time, let's say 90% of the time, you're getting good advice from somebody who is like-minded and in the business. Whereas in a Facebook group, I've seen a lot of bad advice in Facebook groups. I mean, I've seen some good advice, but I've seen a lot of bad advice. And you're not there one-on-one with the person looking at them. And so you don't get the feel for that confidence factor. Exactly. And if you just blindly trust what you get in a Facebook group for information, you could be really going down a wrong path pretty quickly. So yeah, a big fan of conferences. And I think if you're running any kind of a business and you want to improve and you want to be successful, then picking a good conference to attend. And you don't have to go every year, but go every couple of years. Pick a conference and go. And invest in it, and invest in yourself, invest in your business, and go. It will pay dividends tenfold easily.
Mm-hmm. So for the folks who are interested in the Gut Photo Summer Camp, it's gotphoto.com/summer-camp if you're interested, and that's June 20th through the 22nd in Chicago. Bob, where can people go to find more information about you and what you're doing, and if they want to reach out to you for some advice?
One more thing on Gut Photo Summer Camp, though, if you use the coupon code BOB20, capital B, OB20, you'll get 20% off on your registration. So don't miss out on that. As far as me, I have a website, but it needs work. So I don't recommend everybody go there. But My daughter-in-law is working on it, but she's very busy, so it's not ready yet. But it's there, FluvannaPhotos.com. And you can find me in the Got Photo Facebook group and a lot of the other volume photography Facebook groups. I help people all the time with all kinds of things related to composite photography or in tag system or Got Photo or whatever, all these different topics. And you can just reach out to me with Facebook Messenger, or you can text me, but I'm not going to give you my cell phone here. But I will take it. Just don't call me because I'm going to let it go to voicemail if I don't know who it is. But if you do call and it goes to voicemail, just leave a message and I will call you back. I return all my calls, all my messages. I don't ghost anybody. If I'm too busy, I'll tell you, hey, I can't talk now. We're going to have to talk tomorrow. Right. So yeah, I'm an open book as far as helping people. I speak at conferences now. And it's amazing because I'm a huge introvert. As an engineer, I've always been an introvert. But being a supervisor and being a volume photographer I've learned to be extroverted. There you go. At least somewhat. So I'm happy to help people. And if you run into me at a conference, I'm definitely happy to. I'll sit with you all night and talk over a beverage and help you in any way I can.
Well, great, Bob. It's been great talking with you. Hopefully I will see you in person at an upcoming event, and look forward to sharing more information with you later.
Great. Thanks for having me on, Gary. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.